Alright, welcome everybody. In this video, we're going to talk about all the individual stats, but also I want to know who you think should be league MVP after this regular season that we've had. 5 weeks in the regular season, and the Bears end up 4-1. Lions, Sharks, Vipers, Lions, Sharks, and Vipers all finished 3-2. And the Scorpions, Tigers, and Wolverines finish at 2-3. And the Dragons finish at 1-4. It's funny when you look at this. Well, not funny, but funny peculiar when you look at Bears are 4-1, and that's what the Favorites record is, and they got the star running back there. And then you look at the Dragons, that's what their record is, and they have the star running back there and the star wide receiver there. So if those things would have went differently, I really think that the matchups would have looked a lot differently as well. So we'll take a look also at the individual stats here for the players. Look at this after 5 weeks. Only 5 weeks here, and Bill Morris and Derek Albright, Captain Bill Morris and Derek the Future is Albright, did not throw a single interception in the regular season, the 5-week regular season. Look at Anquan Seymour. Anquan, throw it some more. Seymour has 2,000 yards in 5 games, which is really incredible to think about. Look at that, averaging 400 yards a game, which is just absolutely insane to think about. And then also getting 23 touchdowns, leading the league in yards and touchdowns thrown. Anquan Seymour really doing it well. And they had a game where they only scored 10 points. When you really think about it there, when you look at these quarterbacks for the CSFFL League. Also, Mark Missile McCoy, 21 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Absolutely stellar performance. Also, Evan Watkins, 20 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Derek Albright, 19-0. and Tiny Thomas, you can see the drop-off right there at the end there. Tiny Thomas, 18-9. A lot of interceptions there for Thomas. And then Brendan Platt, 18-2. Very similar numbers from Tyler Glover and Brendan Platt when you look at them back to back there. The only difference is 2 picks and, what is that, 4 yards? Look at the 4 yards difference for Brendan Platt and Tyler Glover. And then Bill Morris, 18-0. Really consistent player. They were on he's on the Bears, obviously, and they're 4-1, and they have one of the best running backs in the league. Take a look at all that, and then we'll take a look at completions. Most completions was Evan Watkins. Most attempts was Anquan Seymour. Completion percentages, Evan Watkins, Bill Morris, and Tiny Thomas. So actually, Evan Watkins actually was really efficient, because we talk about how Bill Morris was so efficient, but Evan Watkins was just as efficient and up there with Tiny Thomas and Mark McCoy and Derek Albright. And then you see Tiny Thomas there, very efficient with what he had at store, but a lot of interceptions for Tiny Thomas was the difference maker. Look at the average yards per game for the quarterbacks here. And the sacks and the long play here. Okay, and then we'll move on to running backs, rushing, and William Hillard cracks 1,000 yards in 5 games, which means he's averaging over 200 yards a game, which is absolutely bananas when you think about that. No wonder Favorites are 4-1. 17 touchdowns in 5 games. I don't know what that is, but that is absolutely, again, insane numbers here. William Hillard in the first ever regular season of the CSFFL, is setting the bar extremely high. So that's really cool to see. Average of 10.8 yards a carry. Can you believe that? Phil Clemens as well. 5'8", 182 pounds. Phil Clemens, 13 touchdowns on 96 attempts, 8.5 yard average, 163 yards a game, 816 yards a game, which is no slouch either. Darren Page ends up in third for most rushing yards with 760, 12 touchdowns on 70 attempts, a lot less attempts, and still gets up there with 10.8 yard average, same as William Hillard, averaging 152 yards a game. And Jesse Stockton Bonds, 707 yards in 5 games on 13 touchdowns. Excuse me, on 88 attempts. 8 yard average, 141 yards a game. Tiki Carter, look at the drop off for the touchdowns here. 17, 13, 12, 13, and then 5, 6, 6, and 1 for the bottom half. And Tiki Carter, 500 yards and 5 touchdowns in 5 games is amazing stats. So to think what Jesse Bonds and the top 4 did is absolutely incredible. It's over 3. That's a lot of touchdowns a game. That's a lot of touchdowns, right? So if 5 is averaging 1 a game, then William Hillard is averaging 3 or more a game. So that's pretty crazy. Tiki Carter, 59 attempts, 8.4 yard average, and 100 yards average a game. And then Josh Woods, 6 touchdowns on 65 attempts, 7.5 yard average, and 98.4 yards a game. And then RJ Barber, 483 yards and 6 touchdowns. And Andre Bond, oh my God, this is pitiful, 261 yards and 1 touchdown in 5 games. Damn. Okay, so when you take a look at all that, that's pretty impressive rushing numbers. Only a couple fumbles on the year. Only 1 from Tiki Carter from the running backs. Oh, and RJ Barber. Broken tackles, 38 broke tackles. That's absolutely bonkers. Think about that, in 5 games, 38 broken tackles. Phil Clemens, Jesse Bonds is right there with them as well. Contact after first hit, 784 yards out of his 1,000 yards were after contact, which is insane to think about. Phil Clemens, Darren Page are right up there as well with yards after the first hit. And then 20-plus yard gains, 12 in 5 games, 12 20-yard-plus runs from William Hillard, 10 by Darren Page, and Jesse Bonds and Phil Clemens are right up there as well. Wow, look at that. 83 yard is the longest, and then 80 with William Hillard and a few 78s. Absolutely incredible numbers when you look at it and compared to everyone else, but William Hillard is clearly above and beyond better than everyone else. Okay, then we'll take a look at the passing, and then that's it. And then we'll go through all these, and we'll talk about who should be league MVP. But as of right now, I understand that, Anquan Seymour and maybe William Hillard look to be the top at their position. And then when we go to receiving, Josh Buchanan leads the league with 32 catches and 742 yards and 9 touchdowns. Malvin Hudson leads the league in touchdowns and led the league in touchdowns with 11 touchdown catches and only did it in 17 catches. So 11 touchdowns and 17 catches. That's absolutely insane to think about. That's almost every catch he got a touchdown, averaging 138 yards a game and got 11 touchdowns in 5 games. That's pretty insane. Who else was for the yards? Sleepy Garrett takes the crown for the most receiving yards at 751 receiving yards, averaging 150 yards a game. Josh Buchanan, Malvin Hudson, Ryan Dillon, and Barry Perkins are right underneath them. When we look at touchdowns, Josh Buchanan, Edgar Plummer, and Sleepy Garrett are all tied for second place with 9 touchdown catches. Brent Givens gets 8 touchdowns with 571 yards. Then Darren Linton, 567 yards with 7 touchdowns. Barry Perkins ends with 7 touchdowns, 583 yards. Ryan the Villain Dillon gets 628 yards and 7 touchdowns as well. Pretty incredible for the second string receiver for the Bears there. And then Shane Lott, underperforming all season, but was able to do all of this pretty much in one game. He had 4 touchdowns in one game, 500 yards, 6 touchdowns on only 20 catches. Shane Lott. Chester Manley, first third string receiver to come up here. He's got 6 touchdowns, 449 yards, and 22 catches, outdoing a lot of first string receivers. This third string, Chester Hare Manley, is absolutely a phenomenal receiver. Then John Waters coming out of nowhere with 16 catches and 5 touchdowns, 396 yards. He got 3 of those touchdowns in one game, but still, John Drinks Bong Waters is unbelievable. What a pickup for the Favorites there right at the end. And then Des Edwards, 27 catches, 411 yards, and 5 touchdowns in 5 games. That's pretty good. But compared to everyone else, it's not as good, but still very consistent. And then CJ Diggs, 16 catches, 363 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Keon Turner, 29 catches. He was leading the league for the most part when it came to receptions, and then the last few weeks he kind of fell off there and wasn't able to keep up with the Josh Buchanan, I believe it was, took the lead there, and so he ends up with 29 catches, 468 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Juwan Rucker, 23 catches, 412 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Rick Martin, 4 touchdowns as well, and 340 yards, only on 13 catches. Doug Burrow, 316 yards, 16 catches, 4 touchdowns. Garrett Spence, Blaine Strickland, should I say, 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. Garrett Spence. Jesse Bonds, look, he's the first running back we see up here with 259 yards with 14 catches. Jesse Bonds does air mail and ground mail, does it all. And then right behind him is Casey Buckley, the best tight end in the league. He did really, really well. 10 catches, 163 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Donnie Jennings came out of nowhere at the end of the season because he didn't do anything all season. 6 catches only for 93 yards, but he got 3 touchdowns. Lonnie Steffens, 9 catches, 255 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And all 3 of those touchdowns he took to the house, I feel like, were like 60 or 70 plus yard runs and that he took to the house. So that was pretty impressive play by Lonnie Steffens. And then Jamal Olsen, getting outplayed by a lot of players as well, really not performing to his full ability. Ends with 366 yards and only 3 touchdowns for the number 1 wide receiver. It all went to Brent Givens. And then here comes the second running back on the list, and he only has 3 catches for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns. Rashad Pleasant, 22 catches for 400 yards and 2 touchdowns. Andre Hillard, 13 catches, 185 yards and 2 touchdowns. Darren Page, 2 catches, 138 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did that in last game, or he wouldn't have had any catches all season. So he's definitely not a catching back. Definitely wouldn't label him as that. And Lawyer Wilkerson, always needs a lawyer. Wilkerson, 6 catches, 129 yards and 2 touchdowns. Only averaging 25 yards a game. Look at these averages. These are getting horrendous now. Yeah, and then we'll take a quick look through here. We got Woody Gordon, Wade Fulton, Tiki Carter, Terrell Strong. All these people only ended the season with 1 touchdown. Elijah Lloyd, Russell Lewis, and then yeah, that's pretty much the receiving core. So there's the yards, who led the lead in yards. We'll go through that real quick. But yeah, for the most part, it looks like the top players were Melvin Hudson, Josh Buchanan, and Sleepy Garrett seem to be the real big players in this game. For receiving core, Josh Buchanan had a second in touchdowns. He was second in yards and first in catches. And then we got Sleepy Garrett, who has 751 yards with only 24 catches, averaging 31 yards a catch, which is a lot, and averaging more per game than anybody else, and also getting second place in touchdowns. So, and then lastly, it's Melvin Hudson, who has only 17 catches. He did it, almost got 700 yards, averaging 40 yards, a catch. Averaging 40 yards a catch, sorry, one sec. Averaging 40 yards a catch and got 11 touchdowns. So, what's more impressive? If you had to give the MVP to someone, let me know in the comments below who you think deserves MVP of the first season. So the season is 5 weeks. It's all wrapped up. It's playoffs now. So it's either Melvin Hudson, Josh Buchanan, Sleepy Garrett. So Melvin Hudson, Sleepy Garrett, or Josh Buchanan, William Hillard, or Anquan Seymour. Even though, look, Derek Albright through 19-0, like, he could even be considered. Like 21-3, these guys could be considered. 18-0, they could really get an MVP nod. But let me know, out of those 5 to 6 players, who you think should get league MVP. Who was the best player overall? I don't know what MVP means to you, whether it's consistency or just sheer numbers. Let me know in the comments below. But I'm excited to hear what everyone thinks, because everyone's gonna weigh in on this. Who they think should get league MVP. So on that note, it's been 19 minutes. We went through all the stats. That's pretty much it. Passing, rushing, receiving, all these other stats on defense and everything I'll put in another video, but they were pretty minute. There was not a lot of other things like punting and kicking and kick returns and stuff like that. I'll go through on another video. But mostly for fantasy, we went through all that. So let me know who you think should be MVP. Have a good day and talk to you soon.